Welcome back to the Fostering Financial Victories podcast. I'm Bri Prosser, and today I'm joined by Emily Edwards from Foster Victor and Tina Stevens as our special guest, continuing our business series. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here, and thank you. I'm honored to be asked.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming out. We appreciate it.
So just to kickstart things, tell us kind of the Cliff Notes version of your story. How did you get to where you are today?
So we started out as a machine shop. I worked for a company called Dynacast, which is a small die casting company. It was located in Spartanburg. They've since moved off to New York. They're not here anymore. But they had a machining division, and they wanted to outsource it. So we started out being a machine shop. And when everything transferred to overseas, our business went away. So we transferred into being inspection for automotive parts because BMW was coming up. So we started doing inspection on Class A parts, and now we do point of purchase displays for the consumer industry. So we're very diversified. We do salvage and rework work, and been very happy with that. We have moved 3 different times, and every time we've gotten bigger. Right now we have over 20,000 square feet and 140 employees. So we've grown dramatically in the last 20. We've been in business for 25 years. This is our 25-year anniversary.
That's awesome. And what is the name of the company that you're with now?
Oh, that's great. Secondary Solutions. Thank you for that prompt. Yes, went right into it.
Of course. So in doing our research, we found on the website that you are called the Chief Problem Solver. So what does that title mean to you?
That is our secret sauce. It sounds very glib to say you're a problem solver, but in reality, when somebody manufactures something, they have a process that they follow. If something goes outside of that process, how do you handle that? Is it cost effective to rework it? Do you want to talk to somebody else that maybe has an understanding of that, yes, you can rework it and this is how much it's going to be, or no, let's change it around like this, let's take a part out, or let's inspect it. Whatever the problem is, we come in to help solve the problem. I love to tour manufacturing facilities because we're seeing it from a different perspective than the people that actually are running that business, because their line is they're making this, it starts here, it ends there, and all the steps in between. I love to look at that and find not only a problem, but solutions. Hey, we could help you do this over here and save you money, that kind of thing. I really love that part of my business.
That's awesome. So what would you say, are you mainly touring these manufacturing companies on a day-to-day basis? Or are you, as a small business owner, are you kind of tied up in, kind of the monotonous things of paperwork, or do you like to get out there, get your hands dirty?
Well, that's a twofold. So my daughter, Mindy, I sent her to school to become a nurse. She's an RN, and realized that she wasn't happy doing that. And she came about 5 years ago now to come into the business. So she's working the business and is my retirement plan. So now I get to be more of somebody who gets to go out and look at opportunities and decide. We're actually in a great position of being able to pick who our perfect customer is. Who is that we would want to work with? Who has the same values? It's really, really important when you're looking at corporations and other companies. Do they share the same values? Otherwise, you'll have conflicts, and we try to avoid anything like that. So we do happen to be in a really good position. All of our customers have come through us through references. I really haven't gone out and searched for them.
Yeah, that's great. I think we found that a lot with other business owners that we've talked to too. Really, word of mouth is the best way to get new people, and they're your best advocates for sure.
And I'd say you're definitely in a great place as far as being in Spartanburg to work with all those manufacturers. We pulled up a couple stats about how fast Spartanburg County is growing. They have led the state in the last 5 years for economic investment. They lead the state in new job creation. They're named the number 2 job market in the country. So is that kind of what you're seeing on the ground in Spartanburg?
Yes, so much so. So yes, my thought process to that is there's opportunities coming everywhere, and we're getting literally knocks on the door. Hey, we heard you do this. Can you take a look at this project? My first question is, who told you about us, so that I know where it's coming from so that I can say, okay, yeah, that's somebody that we liked working with. So that must be a good referral. But yes, definitely seeing that. And for me personally, I'm really excited about Oshkosh Defense coming because we do so much Class A steel and the outer compartments of a vehicle. And of course, they're going to be making all the electric mail vehicles there coming up next year. So it's very exciting time. That is somebody that I'm wanting to do business with. I find it's interesting. Networking, you just can't, I don't find it successful to just walk up to somebody and say, hey, I'm Tina Stevens with Secondary Solutions and I can do this and I can solve all these problems and da-da-da. Because how are they going to trust you on the other side? I'd much rather come in and get to know somebody, build some trust with somebody, and then bring them in when we can bring them in. Right now, we're really not taking on new projects. We have projects that we're out there a year from now that we're planning on and bringing in, but I don't want to overcommit. It's really busy right now.
That's great advice. I think that a lot of business owners are struggling with that as well, kind of keeping up with the demand and the labor force and everything like that. Have you seen any challenges on that front, just with hiring new people, not necessarily turnover, but retaining people and wanting to expand your business, but just looking for more labor?
We are in a unique position that all of our employees have come through word of mouth. So if you have people that are working for you that like working for you, they're your best reference. So we literally have people knocking on the door saying, hey, we're looking for a job, for my friend worked here, or my sister, brother, mother, somebody. And so that's how we normally do our recruiting. We do have open positions right now, but we usually don't have too much of a trouble filling those positions.
That's awesome.
Yes.
And one thing that we've seen at Foster Victor is making sure that those team members really represent the same values that you hold near and dear to your heart, especially as a small business. So it seems like if your employees are the ones bringing you these new prospects, then there's a pretty good chance that they'll integrate well with your team.
That is so true. So there's a buddy system too. So you don't just send somebody out there without having the training. They have to make sure they understand what they're doing and what they're bringing for value and how important their job is. Because I don't like to do anything that's considered safety critical, but safety is the number one and quality is number one. It doesn't do any good to have bad product out there. So usually we do a buddy system training and we always have everybody working in pairs so that they feel like they're with somebody. So they don't I hear this story all the time. People come into work and somebody was there for 15 minutes or half an hour or first break and they disappear. We've only had that happen like twice in the last 2 years. Just doesn't happen to us.
Yeah, that's
I'm very grateful for that. Yes. So, and when you come to our facility, we have it right on the doors when you walk in, our values. So if you want to work here, make sure you understand that these are what we're going to be expecting of you right off the bat so that you don't come in with some false pretenses. We do care about your attendance. We do care that you show up. We do care that you're wearing a uniform. We do care that you represent us well. We do care that if you find something, you let us know about it. If you have a question, ask it. There's no stupid question.
Yeah, that's great.
So what's one thing that you, looking back, wish you would have known whenever you were starting all of this?
So for me, the number one thing, I'll date myself. I came up in a male populated industry. For me, I find that it was very challenging in those times. There was not as much as teamwork and bringing on. It was more of a separation. And even with working with women, that women didn't necessarily say, hey, come up here, because there was only room for one woman at the table. It's not the same thing anymore. So my challenge is that I put my head down and I worked really, really hard and stayed laser focused on moving forward, and not putting my head up and saying, what are other resources out there? Who can I ask this question of? Where could I create a relationship with? How can I better myself by involving myself? How about getting a mentor? how about, I mean, there's so many things I wish I had done. Networking is a very loose term, but to me, networking, what I discovered through COVID is networking and actually meeting you in person is so much different than seeing you on a screen. It's so much better. And you've got to put yourself out there and get to know people and connect with people. You're not going to connect with everybody, but you're going to connect with somebody, and then you can develop a relationship with them. And it's a win-win for everybody because you're going to have a network of people that you're doing business with that you might be able to actually do a referral. And I love to do that, is to see connecting, saying, this person's got this skill over here and this person's got this one over here. I should introduce them so that they can put this together and collaborate on a project. And I don't have to do it, but I like to be a part of that, especially for women-owned businesses. I love to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the first big events after COVID that we as Foster Victor attended was the Women in Business seminar. And you were there as well, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So again, one of those great events to actually be able to go and see people in person for one of the first times since COVID and kind of support women in business.
Mm-hmm. And just hearing stories too, kind of like you were saying, you kind of don't know what you don't know until you find out what other people are doing. So just listening, I mean, even hearing your story and some of the other ladies that we met at the Women in Business conference, it's just cool. You don't know what things are out there. That was something we kind of wanted to touch on too. If you'd like to share some of the resources that you found local to Spartanburg or the surrounding areas.
So one of the ones that you guys have participated in the past is the South Carolina Women Business Luncheon that's coming up here soon, August 30th, actually. And we're having a speaker there, and it's going to be Rebecca Heiss, and it's talking about confidence builders. As confidence builders, there's a whole podcast out that Christy Powell have with confidence builders and women in construction, kind of a niche business, but confidence is something that women really still are dealing with. Feeling confident, feeling like you have to know 100% of something to be able to even qualify or participate in, whereas the statistics show that a man would know 50% of it and say, oh, yeah, I know, I can do that, where women think they got to have everything to even step up to the plate. So I would say confidence builders is one of the resources, but as far as business is concerned, the SBA has come a long way. During COVID, they put everything together on one website. So you can go to the website and you can get training on so many different things. It's just fabulous. And I think that people don't realize the SBA has changed. It's not the old SBA where there was a piece over here and a piece over, it was disconnected. Now it's merged and together. And then right here in Greenville, we have a fabulous resource, the Clemson, I wrote it down to make sure to get this right, Clemson Regional Small Business Development Center, because the colleges are there, the development center's there. And if you're starting a business and you really, I want to start a business, I have this great idea, you can go in there and get the resources that you need to do. But I will say from there, though, when you grow your business, what I've realized growing my business, 25 years of being in business and growing, the numbers are significant, that I didn't realize, how do you handle that? When you're not I'm still considered a small business by far, but now we're talking bigger things. And what am I going to do with that? How are we going to grow? And how do you put on? So now we have vacation, 401k, holidays, all the stuff that I couldn't afford to start with. We've all added all those things. And how does that affect the bottom line? And Greenville has that MBA, the Small Business Minority Program for women and other ethnicities that you can go and participate. And I did that, and I thought that was awesome. How to read your numbers, how to make a 3-year strategic action plan. And actually, it was through that process that I got a mentor, and my mentor said, hey, you need to bring in another thing here. You need to bring in somebody that can take a look at your whole life and how it's all interconnecting. And that's how I came to be with Foster Victor.
Very cool. I don't think I even knew that story. That's awesome. Yeah,
it was through that. Beth Veach, she was a coach. She's a coach within, and she's part of that MBA program. And she made some connections, and you were one of 3 recommendations. And I really I really liked what was offered for me. So I feel very confident because it wasn't just about how are you going to handle your money, but it was about how I was going to handle my turning the business over to my daughter. How am I going to handle, is my will taken care of? Is my insurance covered? Is my whole entire life. There's a plan for everything in my life. And I love that. And every 6 months, there's a conversation about what's happening in my life. So
what's changed, what's new.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we feel very honored to be able to work with people like you and yourself. It gives us a lot of pride in our work, and we very much enjoy it. And I think that those resources will definitely pass along to our other small business owners, especially women in business, because I think that's a great area that we can target for sure.
I wanted to mention one more, that PTAC, PTAC, is Procurement Tactical Association Office. I forget what that stands for, but if you're interested in doing any kind of government contracting, they're there for you. They will help you set up your whole SAM. Everything you need to do, and it's free. And you don't even know about it. You could qualify for all kinds of SBD, SBA, SBDC. I mean, all the different 8A, all the different qualifications. HubZone. I'm a HubZone company, which means that historically underutilized zone. So there's lots to do to think about how to develop your business and other business avenues.
And do it strategically.
Yes.
So we kind of talked towards, whenever you were starting out, it was a very male-dominated industry and still very much is. Can you name a specific moment where you maybe had doubts or this goal just seemed very daunting, and how did you manage to overcome that?
So there's two. In 2001, we had 9/11, and we also had the dot-com crash, which I wouldn't have thought the dot-com, but that was all electronics parts, and that was a big customer of ours. So we lost the dot-com business because it crashed, and then 9/11, everybody stopped because of 9/11. I mean, it was a terrible time in our country. So I can remember clearly having the conversation. I could close the doors and go get a job because it was that kind of conversation with myself. Close the door and go get a job, or I could ride this out. And my deciding factor was, and I've said this to many, many people, is you're never going to get as far as you are now if you stop. And so I just persevered. And I think so much, I've reflected on that decision many times, because I could have just gone and got a job and not have the flexibility and freedom that I do in my life, and have the joy of being able to help people and to grow something and be able to be a visionary is what I really like, being a visionary. So I get to do that. So I'm very grateful for that epiphany that I happened to have that day. So I always want to share that. And then the same thing happened in 2008 when that financial debacle happened. And I was very fortunate. I'd had a relationship with a small bank. I think small businesses need to think small banks. Nothing against big banks, but small banks, they know who you are. They know your name. They know what you're about. And for me, it was South State Bank. They came through, and I ended up going out and being able to get a building and grow my business when everything was going down. I was going up. So when the economy came back, I was ready to go. So I use those two examples to say that looking back in the past to go forward. So when the pandemic happened, I was well prepared. Not well prepared. Nobody was prepared for that. That's the wrong word to say. But I was better able to handle preparing, because once we started seeing it, we started having meetings right away, because you can see the writing on the wall. You've been through these different kinds of situations, but it's the same kind of financial scenario. Everything's going to drop out. We don't know how that's going to affect. What are we going to do? How are we going to protect our employees? How are we going to handle this? So, and now everybody's talking about the recession. We've already been, if there is a recession, who knows if there really is going to be one? But if there is one, we have a game plan in place for it.
So you would say that those are your two biggest obstacles that you've really overcome in business?
Yes.
So what are your biggest successes? What are the moments that you look back on over the last 25 years and you're like, these are the moments that made me appreciate these things?
So one of the things I would say is in 2020, even though it was a pandemic year, I won the South Carolina Small Business, Women-Owned Business for State of South Carolina award. And that meant so much to me because I have it on the wall and it's an affirmation when I walk by it that, yes, according to the SBA, I've done a great job, in the state of South Carolina being a woman-owned business. I also I'm with a lot of women organizations, and my business and doing what I've done, I'm able to coach people and mentor people and say, hey, I'm an outsider. I'm looking at your business and I think here's an opportunity. You might want to think about doing this or that, or giving them ideas.
So you're able to be that person that you wish you had early on in your days.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. It's a great connection.
That is a great
Totally.
connection. Yes.
Yeah.
I wish I had. Yes. So true.
Well, feel free to steal it.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I know there are probably tons of young women that are looking up to you. And I mean, even, people that you've worked with probably your whole life that are looking up to you because they've seen you go through those obstacles and overcome the hurdles. And you're living proof of the proof is in the pudding, is that what they say?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the best ways that we can support small businesses? We've done a lot of talking about, small businesses using small banks. What are the best ways that we as consumers can support these small businesses?
And especially women, small businesses as well, because I think you have probably some specific areas to tap into there.
Well, there's this logo called Women-Owned, and I would encourage anybody to look up what that logo is because you'll see it. And like in Publix, if you go and look at the flowers that they have in Publix, there's a little sticker on there that says woman-owned company. I was in TJ Maxx and saw towels, woman-owned company. I've been in Walmart and seen straws and back to school supplies, woman-owned company. I'm like, so if I see a woman-owned company and it's comparable price, I will snatch that off the shelf in a heartbeat because I know I'm helping to get that to get that logo. You have to be a certified woman-owned business. It's legit. You
Very
really
cool.
are helping somebody like that. But it's not just, I've been thinking a lot about because of my business and how I am. I don't do anything consumer related. I'm working with somebody and they are doing consumer related. So I'm business B2B. I don't do any B2, business to consumer stuff. So I think that when you think about it, you go and get your hair done, you get your nails done, when you're going on a holiday, an Airbnb, you're helping somebody there with their life. I mean, there's lots of ways, every action you have. And that's what women control the money. And there's statistics coming out, and I'm sure you guys know this, with the wealth turnover that women will have. I think the number, I just heard it, and I think the number 78% of wealth in the United States will be held by women. And companies need to be thinking about that because women are the one who are going to be making the decision to buy that. They need to have women's, that's something that I've always said when I come and see how many women do you have, what's going on here, because you need to have people that you can be relating with.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that we've missed that you really wanted to include here?
I would say the importance of mentorship and having really people that you can trust, that you can talk to, you can trust, because it's so important to have those relationships that you can bounce an idea off and somebody is going to not tell you what you want to hear, but it's going to tell you, yeah, that's a good idea. Or you might want to think about it this way. It doesn't mean you got to take it and run with that idea, but at least you have people. I have a select group of, I'd say probably 5 to 8 women that I have those relationships with that I can, and it's very, very important to have those relationships.
Great advice.
So we end each of these podcasts by asking the same 2 questions. So the first one of those is, if you could buy anything in the world, regardless of the cost, what would it be?
Now, I should know this because I listen to the podcast.
Well, it's tough when you're in the hot seat.
You can't buy it. I'd buy more time. Really.
Oh, I like that
I
one.
think that's the best answer.
Yeah, if we
Yeah.
could.
If I could, I'd buy more time.
And then, kind of on the same track, what are the last 2 items that you bought?
Concert ticket and a nice pocketbook.
Thanks for spending some time with us. If you have questions, topic suggestions, things you would like to see an episode on, you can find us at fostervictor.com or follow us on Instagram at fostervictor wealth advisors. Share this with a friend, subscribe, download, and let us know what you think.
Information contained in this podcast was intended for general use, not to be used as specific advice. For content tailored to your personal situation, please contact one of our wealth coaches.